Hey there, Grant Ferguson, 89 Fergs Art. Welcome to my studio. Today, we're gonna do some spoon painting. So if you got your brushes out and you're ready to do some brush painting, toss them. Don't need them. We're using spoons today. Conventional spoons, right from the kitchen cupboard, kitchen drawer. These are some previous spoon paintings I have recently finished. I'll show you these. So the reason I even do spoon paintings at all is I really enjoy realism, I really enjoy detail, but sometimes I just need a break. So I kind of set myself up to do something a little more simple, a little more feel, a little less detailed, a little less tedious. So I get rid of the brush and I put a spoon in my hands, and I'm limited to focusing on contrast. I focus on lines of action. I focus on color schemes. I focus on what's in focus in the reference picture versus what isn't as important because it's background. It all comes into play and it all happens really fast, but you yourself can do a spoon painting, and I'm going to show you how. So the first thing that you want to do for a spoon painting is be okay with imperfections. You need to let yourself go, and you need to let yourself trust the process of the entire painting until the end. Trust me, it's going to look weird, it's going to feel weird, it's not going to look like the picture you're looking at, but if you wait until the end and you stick it out, by the time you look at the reference picture and you look at your painting, you will be so very surprised at how much you created and how much it actually does look like it, but without being perfectly detailed. It's like an illusion. So anyone can do it, you can do it. Let's get started. I'm going to show you the reference right now. So this reference, I'm going to do just something kind of simple. It's a very beautiful wave curling with a nice bright middle sunset happening, and the sunset in previous wave paintings I've done really pops, and I love the way it reflects off of parts of the wave. So that's what I really like, is focus on a nice smooth background and then bring the texture out from the background into the foreground on the wave with your spoon. So we're going to put together a nice little background here. I'm going to keep the colors relatively close to this reference picture just for the sake of walking everyone through it and sort of doing this tutorial on how to spoon paint. So let's get to it. Let's pick some colors for this background. Okay, so another thing is what you're going to need is paint whatever colors you want. I have just a bunch of different colors. Your spoons that you're going to use, sizes vary, whatever, use whatever spoon, whatever kind of texture on it, doesn't matter. Some people have collections of spoons, there's a lot of cool ones in there, those work. Another thing that's going to help is a heat gun if you have it, just to speed up the drying process, because the thing about spoon painting is there's patience involved, in a sense where if you don't let it dry, your colors mix, it gets too muddy and you lose texture. You're not going to be painting, rubbing it in. You're going to go where the spot is and you're going to let the spoon do it. And you're going to do it again. And you're going to do it again. And you're going to keep doing that as the layers build. As it dries, you add different colors, so it adds depth, it adds real detail, and that's the illusion effect when you step back and look at it and it starts to look like way more than what it really is if you look close. So the first color I'm going to start off with is a light blue, and we're looking to get the light blue up in the sky. It's the furthest back color. There's also a really bright yellow, gold almost, and we'll be putting that there too, but I want to focus on the biggest color and the biggest surface area that is in the background, and that's the blue for the sky. So you can do more than one blue, you can pick your favorite blue, you can go right on the canvas. put it on your palette and scoop it from there. Obviously, you're using the back of the spoon mostly, so it doesn't scoop that well. But that's perfect because that's going to give you a cool smear. And now just mix that in what's already up there.
And that's one blue.
I like leaving a little bit of gap behind it so that the white can come through as well as the other colors that go on after this and cover it. This will poke through when those ones go on the same way.
And I've grabbed a kind of a navy blue for the rest of the sky. And now I'm going to start a little bit of the water in the bottom with some turquoise. It really doesn't look like much, but like I said, trust the process and it will build. And this is like when you can start adding like different style of paint. So like if you have some metallic paint, you don't add all of them metallic, but you add a couple, and then certain ones have a shimmer and certain light when it's dry. And it adds a little effect to it. You just get, like I said, you just let go. There's no wrong way. You can go right till it's fully dry, or you can get it a little bit tacky so that if you were to do another layer, it kind of grips. So in the water it goes kind of dark, light, dark, light, dark, light. And I just got one color down here, so I'm gonna play with different blues and see what I can do to bring that kind of to the painting without getting too crazy. Okay, so now I've let this blue dry quite a bit, but I need to add some of that bright yellow for the sun, and that's in this area. Now the real middle of the sun, that's the brightest, is basically white, so I'm not going to touch that quite yet. What I'm going to work on is the surrounding, kind of like that area where it starts to move around the yellow. So, and it's okay because there's going to be a couple layers. There's still an island part of land that needs to go in, which will cover up any yellow that we don't want seen. There's clouds that are going to go in on top of the yellow, so if yellow comes through that, that's okay too. The yellow just, it's subtle, but it's there, and it's the brightest focal point of the picture, except it's not a big deal how perfect it is at all, because you'll see it'll blend together with the rest of the painting and itself, with the different color yellows I'm going to use just to bring out some depth in the painting and some eye-catching aspect to it. It looks like nothing yet, you know, like it really is just messy. It doesn't look like much, but you see how letting the painting dry and being patient with that allows me to put blue over top of yellow, or I mean yellow over top of blue, sorry, and not get green. And that's important because we don't need green in the sky. There's a slight bit of green turquoise in the water, but it's in the sky, it's blue, hues of blue. So I laid a little bit of that yellow down. There's also some orange in the painting where the yellow kind of gets further away from the brightest point. I'll add some of that too, just because. Now this is a metallic orange. I'm not going to use metallic in the orange. I'd rather use metallic in the water where it's more reflective. So I'm just going to use regular orange and get that going just a little bit. And like that's okay if it mixes with this yellow, because it's going to give you a cool little bit of a gradient. And just a little bit more personalization. It's like, yeah, it's a reference picture, but you can make it your own by kind of just using it as a guide and not following it to a T, which is also the point of the spoon, is not being able to follow it to a T and get your point across. So there's also some orange in the wave, so that's okay to add some there too. There'll be a few layers, so it's all good if you don't feel like you got it in the right spot, or you feel like it's too dark. You're just gonna have to let it dry and go over it with a different color. Add the layers, it'll add the depth on its own. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you can see it start to take shape. One thing I didn't really mention, but you'll start to notice the different parts of the painting are actually painted stroke wise the same as what it looks like in the reference. So like what I mean by that is the water, the wave is going this way, so my strokes for the wave have all been sort of a semicircle type coming up. The sky is whatever, but I try to keep it all the same, different from what that would be. There's clouds and stuff, so the sky is really like, it's kind of like do your thing, just do whatever you want for the sky, because the clouds are going to cover a lot of it, and the depth of how dark the clouds look on our angle will help make it look brighter behind there anyways. So you just gotta keep going till you're happy with it. Look at the picture, look back at your painting, see if there's somewhere you need to add something, or you think it's a little too much gap, and then you add it, and then you just gotta be patient, let it dry. Doesn't look like much still, but it will. So now that I got this orange and yellow from the sun and the brightness kind of drying, I didn't dry it with the heat gun. I could, but I'm just gonna add a little bit more different depth of blue over to this part of the wave. And not too much of it, because it is the same color as the sky. So I just want a little bit of depth in here that's gonna likely get a little bit covered up again once I go over with a bit different color. And I'm just doing that line. Like, you use the edge, you load up the paint, now it's really right on the edge, and you just go in, and you know everything from that side is gonna lay. Everything on this side should be clean, so you can get a pretty clean line if you need it. That'll start building the wave. As you can see, my wave is going to kind of go like that. So this is showing me that I will need to add more light blue here to separate the background sky from the wave. That's okay. There's lots of time to do that. That's what layers are for. I will add, because there is a couple other blues that I do want to add to the background. I just don't like to spend too much time on one area, so I can watch the whole thing build and grow as one piece. There's some ripple effect in the water down here, so I'm going to add some of that same blue and just do a little bit. Not too much. I did a little bit yesterday already with it. and so that's a little bit more added to it. Okay, so now we're gonna work on the clouds. Got a couple of colors here. Now we're gonna work on the clouds. A couple of colors here to use in this area. We're gonna get some clouds laid down, and then we can finish the rest of it, and it'll all come together once we add the land to separate the sky, the clouds from the water, and the reflection. So what I did was I added some shiny metallic turquoise and start separating the land and the sky with the edge of the ocean. And then I just scatter a little bit of that shiny turquoise around in the water because it does have a little bit of reflection. There's also some shiny turquoise up in the curl of the wave up here, so I threw a little bit up there. And then in this part of the wave, there's lots of yellows, oranges, whites in a sense. Really bright up in this area. So I'm going to start adding a little bit of different oranges and a transparent white to kind of blend in the bright parts and start bringing this part of the painting together. And right in this area, it's not that bright. It's actually the wave curl, and then this part is still the flat part of the water. So I will have to dry this area to put a dark piece there that will connect up into this form of the wave. And once that's done, then I'll just start dabbing like different darks, barely touching it, just getting a little bit of depth in the wave. Same thing up here, lots of dark in the corners. There's a little bit of light orange still in the wave curling, and it comes all the way over to here. So we're just going to dab a little bit of that around. And when it's all done, it will look like the sun is reflecting off this wave instead of just a mess, like it looks like right now. And remember, this is the wave part, so my spoon strokes are going with it. I'll turn my hand to hit the little droplet parts up here. And it goes all the way over, basically, to here, but I'm gonna have to do some dark stuff on that first. And there was still a little bit of sky I need to do in this area. I didn't cover quite enough when I first did it. And
And I'm gonna add a little bit of a brighter yellow as well, because this initial yellow I did is very, very light.
For the sky. It's a little wet over there, so I'm not going to get too crazy till it's dry. But I'm going to just splatter this around a little bit in the sky. And all that's going to do is just personalize your painting. It's not following anything. You don't have to do this. I just like the depth, the character it brings out by changing a few things up, adding a few things of your own, which is the whole reason the freedom of swoop painting is so appealing to me. So now if you look in this area, there's a lot of white, and as soon as this is dry and the clouds are dry, I'm gonna add not just black, I might do like a dark green in there as well as black, and start adding the mountain range and the slight bit of trees and land that they have in the reference. And that goes, it starts really big here about the length of this part of the spoon, and it's going to gradually get smaller as it gets closer to that wave, and it's going to it gets really bright in this area. It's not really dark anymore, it's really more orange, but it does separate from the sky, so there'll still be a kind of a sharper line before the brightness of the white that's behind there. Before I do that, I will need to add probably the yellows and the whites, so that when I do, my main goal when I add the mountains is that I want the mountains to be on top of the clouds and on top of the sky. So all of that kind of has to be done before I put that on, or else then I'll be like working really tight to edges and have to be really careful. And that's not the point of the spoon painting. This point is to be kind of reckless and carefree. All you have to do is just kind of think ahead of where and what you're putting on next. but a different yellow. And basically, I've created your own spoon painting of a wave, and now I'm just gonna add the black on top of this to finish off the land, make it stand out more, and you basically just add any more color you want wherever you feel like it needs it. Otherwise, it's pretty much done. And a couple little accents of the wave curling on top here still. Other than that, it's pretty much wrapped up. After a few more things. Last little spot right there. Some metallic orange.